AllBall TV.
They scared, but I'm not.
They don't like comentario.
Y suscribe.
In this trade pitch by Heavy.com, they said trade Knicks. In this trade pitch, Knicks pitch would move Mitchell Robinson for a top 10 2024 draft pick and more. And what really made it interesting, because I didn't care about it until I seen this. Mitchell Robinson went down this past postseason, making it possible that Hartenstein could be the answer. In a proposed trade for Zach Buckley, from Zach Buckley of Bleacher Report, you get more and more familiar with Zach Buckley. You were talking about the other Zach. So Zach Buckley of Bleacher Report was the one who said the Knicks would move Robinson to the Memphis Grizzlies for Luke Kennard, the number 9 pick, and more. So the Knicks would give back Luke Kennard, the number 9 pick in the 2024 draft, that's this year's draft, the 2026 second-round pick via the Clippers, and the 2027 second-round pick via Atlanta. If the Knicks pay anywhere near $72.5 million to keep Hartenstein, that would be a crystal clear indication of their intent to keep him in the starting lineup, which is what Flea's been saying. That would also sound an alarm for Robinson, whose $14.3 million salary suddenly might be way too much to stomach for a backup big man. That alarm could be a music to the ears of the Grizzlies, who have a Steven Adams-sized hole in their center rotation and could be itching to get back to their elite ways. And talk about Robinson's stats, his offensive rebounds that could help the Grizzlies, and of course their grit too, because they're not grindhouse anymore, but they do have an identity, right? With John Morant, when Steven Adams was there, they do have an identity. And the other thing about this trade is Bohan, like Bogdanovich, in order for the Knicks to keep him, you have to retain the $19 million for next season. And if you make a trade like this and get rid of Mitchell Robinson, and you're going for a Luke Kennard, the reason why that stood out to me is because Luke Kennard shoots like 45% from three, great shooter. He's bringing you what Bogey's missing, but if you bring him on, he's making $14 million. Luke Kennard is the next season. Bogey would make $19 million if you keep him, but now you can trade him or get rid of him for the $2 million. That's a cap hit, by the way. So it hits the cap, which is the most important part of all these equations. And now you're basically paying Kennard and Bogey's cap hit for $16 million instead of the $19 for Bogey next season. And Kennard is also signed for how many more seasons? Luke Kennard. Contract. 4 years, $56 million. I know it's $14 million this season. And right, so next season is a club option for Luke Kennard, and after that he's a free agent. So you can still there's probably a no, you can't trade him by like January because they have two to three different trade deadlines in the season where they'll say, hey, by December 13th or something like that, there's a first level of people that can be traded, and then January is the same thing. I don't know why they do that. I mean, yeah, I don't know why they do that, but there's a reason why. Like, they're trying to control the player empowerment more and more. They keep on restricting it. But I this is tough, man, because Mitchell Robinson is injury prone. If the Grizzlies are open to it, are they giving up that many draft picks? Are they giving up their first round draft pick? Like, that doesn't seem likable to me. But entertaining this and something like it has to, has to be a part of the equation, because we want to keep Hartenstein or Mitchell Robinson. Is it easier to find a Mitchell Robinson? I think that may be part of the equation as well. We talked about it earlier this year. It's way easier to keep or to find the big man in a Tibbs style of play so far. It's been that way. It's harder to find the guards and perimeter players. Hartenstein, Ochua, Mitchell Robinson. These are all guys that performed and produced, overachieved, and of course they're willing to do it under Tibbs' system, but they produce in a way that makes Tibbs' system effective with the offensive rebounding, extending the offensive possession time. It's I don't say it's the only way to do it, but it's it's for me it's what makes Tibbs' system go. Even when Julius Randle was here by himself, it was Mitchell Robinson here, and we made it seem like a lot of us overlooked Mitchell Robinson back then. So finding those, diamonds in the roughs, that's key for a Tibbs system for this, especially when the next 10 years or so. We can't see the Boston Celtics. If they win this year, we don't see that, replicated. We can't see that for 10 years. There's no Drew Holiday for the next 10 years and Derek White. Those situations, I think, would even be, I was going to use the word exacerbated. Wow. But it came to mind. But I think even those things aren't likely to happen. The league wants to avoid making dynasties. They were trying to do that in the 90s, but they were also trying to promote Michael Jordan, right? Like, so Michael Jordan was the star, and I always say Michael Jordan was giving the NBA free commercials every hour, every half hour, every 15 minutes with Nike, Gatorade, you name it, McDonald's, especially Nike. That Nike is an unofficial NBA partner, right? And they help promote Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan, goes hand in hand with the NBA. Where would you find them? Especially back then, it wasn't social media. What else are you gonna do? That's what makes the revolution of the women's game different, because a lot of them, like Angel Reese, they're coming off like IG models, right? Like it's sex sells, but it's also the fact that with these NIL deals, they're promoting themselves on there. So Michael Jordan he was creating that avenue for the dudes, because you ain't gonna be sitting on there just being an IG model on Michael Jordan in this era. But guys, I guess they do that. We've seen Dan Bazillion, whatever his name is, and frauds out here selling a lifestyle. But I went on a crazy rant right now. But the league is going differently. And the 90s, they were trying to capture or push for this Michael Jordan led league, but they also, because of that, that's why you saw the late 90s, all the money coming in, and you saw all the point guards turned into two guards. And they ultimately led to the rule changes where they wanted more Michael Jordans, more Magic Johnsons, right? They were promoting that. So it opened the game up. We put zone defense in there, and it was a lot of guard play in the 2000s, but they were inefficient, right? They weren't Michael Jordan. They didn't have the combination of that will and skill and body type. And you had the dynasty still because the salary caps weren't as constrained. They were able to have, the Lakers, the Spurs, and Minnesota was restrained also. That's not talked about enough. The Minnesota Timberwolves, if you think about it, Kevin Garnett had to go to the Boston Celtics because they lost all their draft picks with the Joe Smith ordeal, right? Joe Smith, the Minnesota Timberwolves kind of signed Joe Smith underneath the table, and they lose a bunch of money, a bunch of draft picks. So Kevin Garnett never finds a young guy to team up with. Stephon Marbury asked for a trade, so they never have their 1-2 tandem, the future Stockton and Malone, as they were dubbed. So all these things happened in the late 90s, early 2000s, and now you have every team, especially on the Eastern Conference. In the Eastern Conference, it's pretty much one star player with a bunch of role players. Right, like you have Allen Iverson with a bunch of role players. Even though it's Mutombo there, when they traded Ratliff for Mutombo, he's still later in his career, and it's a bunch of role players. Same thing with Vince Carter when T-Mac left, because they were leaving to become the single star for an organization. And even that, again, is not the T-Mac Grant Hill pairing was supposed to happen, and that fell through. So there was a lot of things that took place. Penny Hardaway falling through, all these injuries that took place made it so that, unfortunately for the league, they didn't think about the attrition that guards go through. Maybe in the 80s, we didn't have so many guards having these injuries and small forwards, the star guards especially, that now in the 2000s happened. This is what was going on. Now it was like one star per team, and it was like, all right, by the time Philly plays the Lakers, they don't have a chance. Orlando was supposed to be a powerhouse with Grant Hill and T-Mac, but they don't have a chance if it's just T-Mac, even though I went on a rant about T-Mac this morning and people hated me for it, and he was supposed to stay in Toronto. Like, that would have been amazing, but it didn't happen that way because the allure of chasing this big bag and being the star of a team. And now, in this day and age, we saw what the Golden State Warriors did and how they averted everything, and what LeBron team hopping, leading the team hop era, right? The player empowerment, that it became, that was a response to the previous decade where he said, well, Kobe got 5 rings and all this demand in China. He's only getting that because they're teaming him up over there in the Lakers with a team. I'm in Cleveland. I don't have another All-NBA player next to me. I can't get one. I would have to rely on Dan Gilbert. So it's tough to go through that. And the NBA is saying, we don't care. They're making it so that LeBron can never leave Cleveland again. That's what they want, because all these cap constraints, or maybe if you find those 2 stars in the draft with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, imagine after this, are you going to give Jason Tatum $300 million, $400 million to pair him up with Jaylen Brown? That's going to be if you're going to do that, then the fans are going to know, oh man, how are we going to get the role players? The Knicks have the blueprint for it if you find guys that are diamonds in the rough. That's why Jalen Brunson's saying he's taking less money. The other guys, I don't want to say they should follow suit. There's a lot of money they're turning down. But this is a direct response to the last 2 decades. Right? Like, this is a direct response to the last 2 decades from the NBA. And the big money coming up with NBA, with the media rights, billions of dollars in the next 11 years. I'm surprised they signed for 11 years, by the way. But you have the next decade coming up. The NBA, Adam Silver, it was saying, man, if we keep all these guards in their star city, we can keep selling these tickets. Look at Kawhi with the Clippers. Why would the Clippers think they have to sign Kawhi Leonard? Because they just built the stadium and they want to recoup, I think. I mean, Ballmer's a billionaire, but that stadium is amazing. And you want to it's not just the fact that I always shout out to Dime, man. I always talk to Dime about this. Basketball wise, it doesn't make sense to re-sign Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and James. It doesn't make sense. They're injury prone. It's not like, if you guys think that's a championship team, that's fine, but I still think they're flawed. But that's not even the point. Even if they were a championship team, we saw how they're so injury prone, Paul George included. So the only reason why you keep them is because Kawhi Leonard is going to load manage himself. Steph Curry's going to load manage himself. The teams are going to load manage Steph Curry, right? Because Steph Curry even spoke out against this. He came out and he said, "You think I don't want to play basketball? They're making me sit." So the team, they know, if I can prolong their careers, meaning prolong the hope that they are on the court in your mind as a fan, you have a carrot in front of your face, and you're chasing that carrot all day, every single day as a fan. All these 9-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds, even 20-year-olds, even grown men, 40-year-old plus, 41, baby. You chase this allure of having a celebrity play. It's easier to sell that ticket with Steph Curry on there, whether he's playing or not. It's easy to sell that ticket with Kawhi Leonard there, whether he's playing or not. The Knicks, we found our star in Jalen Brunson. He's not going to be the super mega star that LeBron and these guys are. He wasn't coming into the league like that, even though he won in college. Either way, the Knicks found their star. So, and they have a coach, and they have a system. So trading a Mitchell Robinson, these kind of trades, they're going to happen more often because you have to make yourself flexible at all times. Collect as many draft picks as possible. You have to be beyond flexible with your cap, your trading, and you cannot tie yourself down unless you do have a LeBron, which is if you have LeBron, you had a Michael Jordan. These guys are a 20-year difference between their drafts. They're supernovas. Like they're supernovas. They're like Jordan got injured one season really, and he took a year and a half off, or he's playing baseball, whatever it was. Wink, wink, right? But they played like he went to a three-peat. Michael Jordan did a three-peat, went to the Olympics, and he was still dominating. That's very rare. So the league doesn't want to rely on that. They'd rather rely on the hope that these guys can play and sell those tickets. And the Knicks, they're kind of the opposite of that with the work ethic and the culture. Jalen Brunson, and again, that's why I think this makes sense. If you can go for a Luke Kennard, you trade Mitchell Robinson to the Grizzlies for Luke Kennard and a couple of draft picks, because now you're making up for losing Bogey and getting that shooting back, and you knock about $3 million on the cap for next season. And then you have that first round draft pick, if it is a first round draft pick that they do get, or a future first round draft pick, and they're talking about pairing that up to get another star. That for the Knicks would be, when we talk about money, talk about growing the Knicks to doubling. I think they can double in value. And I would think the NBA wants that, but they can't show interest in that. But I can see them doubling within the next 3 or 4 years if you win a championship with this culture and everything. So that Mitchell Robinson trade is amazing, man. It really is. Of course, we were hurt to lose Mitchell Robinson because that's just tough. That's just tough to lose Mitch. We're tied to him. Yeah, that's just rough, man. It really is. AllBall TV. They scared, but I'm not. They don't like comentario.
Y suscribe.